If you are just tuning in, thanks for tuning in. This is Beaver Politics. The show is Radicalized. I am your host, Mr. Radical, and tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. Tune on in. The format for Beaver Politics, as always, is knowledge through discourse. We're going to open the floor to conversation after the topic has been introduced. The topic will always remain civil. If you can't be civil here and you can't forward the discussion in a meaningful way, you will be muted or asked to leave. If you don't want to leave, then we'll just let you go. But thanks for coming in to our guests on the panel right now. And thanks to all our guests that are tuning in. So, the subject tonight, I think, has to be the tech bros and the amount of manipulation from what we're seeing. We currently have the richest man in the world who is installing his own systems and networks in American computerized systems, into payroll systems, into basically the entire American network. Now, that should be frightening to us on a level. If we shouldn't have been already as frightened as we possibly could be, that someone with the emotional deficiencies of a Mark Zuckerberg, someone with the emotional deficiencies of an Elon Musk. They have more data and more availability of information on the average person than just about any government facility has ever had on any of their subjects in history. The amount of mining of information that they get on our phones is probably beyond most of our abilities to comprehend. But it isn't just the amount of information that they're getting, it's the way that that information is used. That information is being compounded, and social media is amplifying the message specifically designed and catered to each individual person. Now, as I've talked about often, our brains are under equipped to deal with the world as it is today, the amount of stimulus that the brain receives. But now, when we start talking about pounding particular parts of the brain, especially satisfaction and especially heavy emotional centers in the brain, the effects are magnified to a possibility that I'm not sure that we quite understand yet. And like I said, people of emotional deficiencies, like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, now have all of this data that they can use. And I've stated often, while absolutely not everybody that follows the Trump or the MAGA standard is brainwashed, to be absolutely sure, many of them are. And they've been brainwashed in a way that we have never ever seen in society before. And now we see Elon Musk actually going into realms that he didn't really have access to. So not only does he have critical individual information on each of us, he now has the critical information of how that information had been applied into the government. And again, this should scare us on a level that is beyond fear of being eaten by animals, which is a primal instinct in the human being. The amount of information and the way that they can weaponize it is almost beyond our comprehension. And I think it'll take years, if not decades, if not half a century, to realize the type of impact that what we're seeing right now with targeted manipulation by social media. I don't think we're understanding what the implications are long term, and I think we're just starting the implications of what it can do short term. People that we know, common sense people, people that had empathy and sympathy and compassion, have still managed to get themselves embroiled in these idealistic ideas that come with very short. The message is always very short. The message is always very simple. The message is repeated time after time after time. And there isn't a thing that does that better than social media. So I'm going to open it up to the panel. I think there's a slew of things there to discuss and occupy an hour and a half. If you're just tuning in, thanks for tuning in. This is Beaver Politics. The show is Radicalized. I am Mr. Radical. Tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. Thanks for tuning in. So, Desiree, what do you have to say on what I'm talking about here?
I I don't think people really realize how much this will affect us in Canada, especially those of us who have American family members, and they've gotten this information, from the American public now. And but how much of that spillover is getting Canadians information linked to those American families? And if I, heaven forbid, have to go to a funeral, because that's the only thing that's getting me to the United States,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to be stopped and detained at the border because somebody's gone through my Facebook and my personal information and then yada, 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 right? It's going to affect us. We just don't know how deeply it's going to affect us yet.
No, and that's a solid point because, like most things, you can always plan ahead, but until you're in the middle of it, that's when you know just how well you planned for everything. And a really solid point because, as I mentioned in my diatribe, that the implications of what we are seeing and just how vast they are, we're just starting to get a little bit of a taste of it now. Angela, you want to chime in?
Hello, hi, how are you?
Good, Angela. How are you?
I'm fine. So, yeah, I think we need to be very careful because right now we're just watching over the American side. But we got to remember these tariffs are coming in and a lot is going to be affected. The economy will be affected, but it's going to affect us mentally as well, and physically, we're going to feel some impact. And this is a time we should be coming together as a community, helping one another out. Sorry about that. Helping one another out, and reaching out to everyone because this is going to be a challenging time, and we have to accept the fact that there's going to be people out there that are supporting the American politics right now, and they live here in Canada. And I've come across them, I'm sure you have, and every other people have as well. And it's going to cause a little bit of division, but we have to be strong, and we have to get through this. And we need a strong government, and we do have a strong government in right now. But that's the first thing I wanted to say tonight.
Thanks, Angela. Canadian Mulligan, what do you have to say on this one?
To turn my mic on. Um, what I would think for myself would think that my a bigger scope of it, and it's already so like you said, it's just so mind blowing that we can't even fathom the scope of it. I'd be kind of My mind goes to our security as a country. What what kind of information the Yanks have and will use, you know, um, that we used to like maybe share together, and now we can't trust them to save our life. Like, you know, that's that's kind of where my mind went. I can't really like I mean I can't. I'm sure I'm on social media. I'm on a couple of things. I mean, I'm small potatoes. I just, yeah, I'm more worried about the country's security more than anything else.
Well, and that security is at risk right now because is Elon Musk is weeding himself into systems that hang on a sec, guys. In the freezer. The big one. Across from the fridge. Hi, sorry about that, guys. The fact that Elon Musk, who's already a contractor into the military, the American military, and now he's mining information from there, he's mining information from social media, and now he's mining information directly from government systems. I mean, like I said, the amount of information that these guys have access to is on a scale that's unprecedented, and it targets everybody individually as well as on a group by group basis. Kingston, you want to chime in? Kingston, do you want to chime in on the subject here? Have we got you there? All right, well, hang tight for there. Uh, yeah, Carlos, that's not even worth answering. Um, yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, guys, one of the I often talk about the. Yeah, I can hear. Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, I got you now. Yeah, but shows your mic is still off there. Yeah, go ahead though. Kingston? Yeah, go ahead there. Yep. No, go ahead. Have your say there. Yep.
Say that everybody's correct, but I just wanted to add my 2 cents that I think it was.
Oh, I think we lost him there. So, Desiree, do you want to continue off there?
I don't know that there's really much to add right now. Like I just, to there could be, because I'm on TikTok now, and I post a lot of stuff regarding racism and politics, and and I'm concerned about the blowback for my U.S. family as well.
Well,
Like,
the unfortunate thing is we're caught up now that everybody is involved, even if you're on the whatever side of the spectrum we're. If you didn't vote for Trump, you're now going to be impacted, whether you like it or not. And the ramifications of this, I think, are just starting to seep in. We've all seen the farmer guy that they cut off U.S. aid, and I mean, at the end of the day, everybody is going to be impacted with this. But the sad part is for most of us on the left, we saw this coming and understood the implications. Right now, a lot of people on the right are just starting to understand what the implications are because it's affecting them directly. And I just watched a video 2 days ago where she said, "Yeah, well, I'm regretting my vote now. We voted Trump in both elections, but now that it's affecting me, I'm really starting to regret this." And but as I've spoken often with the issues of brain science, so much of it comes down to how much of our empathy bubble extends out. For most of us on the left, that empathy and sympathy bubble extends out way further than our own social area.
Right.
With the right, their social area consumes all of that thought, and if it doesn't affect them or someone that they know directly, it's not an issue that exists. And this type of brain patterning and this type of brain, uh, the way that our brain operates, again, all of these things are at our worst with social media, including this.
Yeah. It's I don't think we're going to see really the full scope of anything yet for maybe another 3 to 5 weeks.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I would. A lot of people are throwing that 54-day timeline for the Gestapo fellow there, but the reality is I've listened to a lot of people going, well, there's safeguards. There's safeguards. No, by the end of next month, there will not be any safeguards.
No.
And I've said often enough that if they did have full control of the military, from day one, you would be living under martial law and under militarized rule. I firmly believe that a lot of these machinations and manipulations that we're seeing with Elon Musk and that we're seeing with all of this collaboration with the Mark Zuckerberg types are because they don't have control of the military. So they are simply approaching it from a different angle of attack. Canadian Mulligan, what do you have to say?
Well, this whole conversation scares the crap out of me, actually, but and what's happening. I honestly, I'm just gonna listen a little bit here because this is really, uh, obviously, there's a lot of people, including yourself and your wife and everything, that have. I saw some of this coming, but not to this extent, and I'm out of my depth. Like to I don't mind having an opinion, but I'd rather kind of listen a little bit and just gain some knowledge.
You
Thank you.
betcha. It's one of the things that I often discuss is understanding what the human animal actually looks like. And I've often talked about the three R's, the things that people will unalive for en masse: your race or your region, your religion, and resources. And once those three things enter the equation, the human animal is capable of just about anything to either keep or attain those things, or to defend those things. And that's why I believe now that we're starting to see they're pushing people to the point where their safety of home is at threat. We're now at a level in the human brain that people feel that their personal safety is under direct threat. And that's why we're getting, and again, social media is the key manipulator of this. And it is distorting our viewpoints because at the end of the day, we statistically live in the safest times in human history. We have the most accessibility to healthcare. We have the most accessibility to safety. We have the most accessibility to education, to food, to housing, all of these things. And yet, at the end of the day, we tend to act on, because of this socialized manipulation of the brain, like we're literally standing at the edge of a crevasse waiting to fall in. But again, that's the master beauty of the social media machine and how far it can impact the fear drive in the human animal. Smarshy, welcome to the show.
Oh,
Blade Rogers, welcome to the show. We'll have you turn off your mic for just a moment, and then we'll have you chime in after Smarshy here, please.
How do you turn it off?
Hang on here. There you go. I'll help you out, shut you down. You tap on your screen, and it'll show you a picture of a camera and the mute button there. So have a look at that. We'll have you on in a minute. Smarshy, go ahead.
I just got here. I don't know what we're talking about, sir.
Okay. Well, we'll tell you what. We'll have you catch up here. Blade, we'll bring you in, and we'll have you chime in on the subject, sir.
Thank you. Good, respectful conversation. You're great. You're moderating just perfect.
That's our aim here on Beaver Politics. It's knowledge through discourse. That means everybody gets a say and everybody stays respectful. Go ahead and have your say, Blade. What do you have to say on the subject here?
So I'm just joining, but I heard something about tariffs, so I'm just going to listen in for a second just so I can get a flow of
You
what you
betcha.
guys are saying.
So, Desiree, we'll go back to you, and then Angela will have you chime in.
Well, I have dinner-itis setting in. Just finished dinner as you came on. So my brain's still a little bit full of mashed potatoes.
No worries.
Um, but yeah, I just like to I see you laughing, Angela. But yeah, with Angela, I waffle between everything's going to be okay to absolute fear,
Yep.
And so I, take time and I get off of here and I don't go on Facebook and, sit and chat with my husband. And I have to do some of those things that keep my brain disengaged, because last week, I swear my blood pressure was just through the roof, trying to make up from down, left from right, and disseminate information. And then I was getting overloaded with information,
Yep.
and it's a lot covering what's going on in Canada and trying to cover what's going on in the US. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. And I want to say this, and I've said it, and I want to keep repeating it, that it's designed to be this way. It is because, like I said, the brain was never really equipped to deal with the amount of information and stimulus that we have in our current societies. And not only do we overstimulate it all day going about our business and our jobs and our families and our lives, then we get on this thing at night and we have this thing bombard and blitz particular areas of the brain. And Desiree, that response that you're having, those instantaneous up and down emotions, that's an amygdala response. That's a triggered amygdala response is what we're getting. But the entire point of all of this social media manipulation is to elicit exactly that response. And it's a good time to highlight how important self-care is, to not allow the amygdala to just completely overwhelm us, because as soon as that happens, logical thinking goes out the window, and that's exactly what they want. So, Angela, we'll have you throw in.
First of all, Desiree, I know exactly how you feel because I went through the first time that he came in. I frustrated myself. I stressed myself. It was physically and mentally affecting me the first time Trump got in. This time it's a little more scarier because we see Elon involved in this, right? And we realize that because this is his last technical term, he's literally doing everything possibly. So we're looking at the American side, but we also have to understand this could be coming to our side. And that's what's scary. And so I watched the Pierre Polavad rally today. I didn't go there. I just watched it, virtually. And it's scary because I know the reality. And I saw a lot of what he was saying is the same language that Trump is saying. And he's implementing some of it, what Trump is saying, right? About
Absolutely.
efficiencies in our government and other comments that he made. So that's why I understand completely how you feel. And I feel the same way, and then everyone out there feels the same way. And we have to find ways to help each other out. And, we also, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. We also have the reality that we do have the tariffs coming in, right? And it's going to impact some of us, maybe through our jobs, but our economy mostly, right? And that's the time we need to be really strong and help each other out. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mulligan, are you ready to chime in, or do you want to just sit back for a minute? Yep.
I'm gonna sit back for a bit, but thank
You
you.
betcha. Smarshy?
Oh God, I could. Oh, if I could say what I really wanted to say, I would, but I won't because I'll keep it
Say it.
PG.
Say it.
No,
It's safe.
no, no, it's not. It's really not. Looking at the two countries and looking at these well, the one leader down south who we all know is the dumpster fire, and putting all these tariffs in here and doing all this and not actually knowing what a tariff is for him as a president is scary because he doesn't really understand what he's going to do to his country. I see the country of the United States lasting 6 months with these tariffs, give or take 6 months. We'll be generous and give them 6 months. Canada, Justin Trudeau right now is making deals for us to be able to switch partners if it really goes down south, like really really goes down and crashes between the U.S. and the tariffs. Um, that I give him complete and utter respect for. He's doing deals, even though he stepped down, he's still working for Canada. So I mean, exactly, and everybody's like, "Oh, you don't know anything. You're a Canadian." I'm like, "No, I know quite a bit." You. The thing that gets me is why is that bonehead allowed to protest when he doesn't have security clearance? Why is he still allowed in office when he doesn't get his security clearance? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, security clearance? No, you don't have it. You don't get to protest. You don't get to do shit. You don't get to go rally, rah, rah, rah. Canada's broken. Axe to taxes. No, he is fucking scared. And that is why he's doing what he's doing, and he's doing his three little fucking word slogans like axe attacks, save Canada, Canada's broken. And I said this yesterday and I'll say it again. Canada is not broken. Canada is nowhere near broken. It's the governmental system that lets these boneheads run shit that's broken. That's the only broken part of Canada is the governmental systems. If we had better governmental systems that worked for us and not have us work for them and tax us out the wazoo, yeah, we would be better off. But unfortunately, that's what capitalism and why are tech bros being brought into this whole apparatus of governmental system? Because I remember
I'm
when
gonna
I
hang on, Smarshy. I'm gonna interrupt you for 1 sec. Why are they being brought in? Because social media is now the new religion. That's why. The same
right.
manipulation that we used to get with religion is now better, faster, cheaper, and more in home than religion ever was in its social media.
Right, and that's the thing I don't. That's the thing I was gonna talk about. Is I remember being happy going to the bank and having to deposit my check and having to deposit the money I got from my grandparents. That was better than just being like, oh, well, I've got this bank account set up. I've got all these um charges I didn't know about, and now I have to pay more money than I get money. So I mean, it really bothers me that we have all these tax all these tech bros in our government system because now we who goes and cashes a check anymore?
Yep,
I mean, honestly, you just go to an ATM machine, stick your check in, and it's deposited automatically.
yep.
Where's the interaction with the banks?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
what I'm worried about.
now I will say that I do believe at the end of the day we will be on fully digitalized currency at some point. I don't think we are going to have cash. There is going to be a point in time where that is the reality. How soon and how that looks, I think, is the bigger question, because at the end of the day, any system that isn't independent and doesn't have any oversight will always be full of corruption. So, Blade, you've had a chance now to listen in. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah. Personally, I think that we all need to relax a little bit because our greatest asset right now is that buffoon south of the border is making enemies everywhere, foreign and domestic. And we have to remember is that, yeah, you know what? He's got some popular opinion. He has an agenda and he's got some wind in the sails. But at the end of the day, this honeymoon period is going to run out and people are going to start asking questions. And he's making enemies wherever he goes. So, in the background, we just need to be strengthening our country. And before, I get kind of nauseated with this whole Canadian patriotism fight against the Americans because we all know that anti-Americanism has always been a pastime the favorite pastime in our country. But now, if we're gonna do that, we need to be rational. We got to think what is going to put ourselves in the best position for success, and we need to start thinking about that. And right now, we just need to calm down. Everybody is whipped up in a fury, and yeah, it's scary. I mean, it's changed my whole worldview. Like I was very pro-American, not because I agreed with everything they did. I didn't, but I always said, well, if there's going to be a world power that we're going to align ourselves with, I'll take the American hegemony over the Chinese or the Russians. But right now, it's kind of screwed my worldview a little bit. So I'm just sitting back and just seeing what's going on, and it's like, okay, we may not be able to control what the Americans are doing, but we can control what we're doing internally. And right now, we are not aligned. There is not a plan. All the politicians could say there's a plan. The liberals could say there's a plan, but there's not a united plan
There
at all.
is.
Okay,
Okay,
what's
Blade, can I ask you a question?
yeah?
Um, well, actually, I'm going to say a statement. Ms. Radical said, we can't afford to sit back and relax. We just can't. As much as we agree that we want to have, the ability to sit back and relax, we honestly can't. We are up against a fucking monster. It is
Mm-hmm.
David versus Goliath right now. That is what we are fighting. We are David and they are Goliath. And we are fighting them. And we have to um move in the shadows and we have to do everything we can. So for someone to sit here and say, oh, you guys just need to calm down, That is so asinine that someone would say that. I'm sorry. I
Okay,
actually
well,
am not sorry.
okay,
Keep
so
it
I'm
so
not
I'm gonna
sorry.
I'm gonna
smarty.
qualify
Let's
that
keep
for a
it
second. I'm gonna
respectful.
qualify that. Okay, what I'm saying is, first off, we need to have a cohesive, united plan in Canada how we are going to combat this. In the
Yep.
meantime, poking that idiot in the eye is not. It makes a good soundbite. It whips everybody up in a patriotic the fervor, but it is not a good plan. So we need to figure out what are we doing as a country, and we are not aligned as a country. And right now, okay, Mark Carney, okay, everybody is hailing him as the heir apparent. You know, there's a coronation of Mark Carney. He's saying the exact same things that Trudeau's been saying. Okay. And it's right now that is not going to get us where we need to be. I'm not pro PP, not even in the slightest. But at the end of the day, we rejected Trudeau for a reason. So why do we want to bring somebody in that is saying the exact same things? Maybe, you know what? Maybe he doesn't talk with a list. Maybe he doesn't have the fancy hair or the fancy socks, but he's saying the exact same things. So
Mhm.
we need to figure out what we are going to do as United Front. It can't be screw Quebec, screw Alberta. We
Yep.
have to take our strengths.
Hey, what did
What?
I do?
Hmm?
So I want to throw this out about on one of your points though, as I'm not a historian or a history expert, but it's certainly one of my interests. And the one thing that you learn, is, particularly between not only from a psychological viewpoint, but also from just a historical viewpoint, that you simply never back away from a dictator. The second that you back away from a dictator, that is both psychologically and historically, from what we've seen, is basically throwing the door open. So, with that being said, Blade, I'll have you have a quick response to that, and then Desiree will go back up to you, and we'll continue on down the line here.
Well, what I'm saying is that no, you can't allow like a dictator to be a dictator. But at the end of the day, you got to have a plan, right?
Agreed.
Like you just can't go and stick the bully in the eye if you don't have a good left hook. And right
Agreed.
now, we don't have a good left hook. Like we don't. We're divided as a country, and what the response is going to be. And all I'm saying is, we have a lot of strengths as a country. If you go and you add up all of the riches that we have in this country and all the potential that we have in this country, there's nobody that can stop us. But the problem is we are divided as a country and what we are going to do. We're like, it's either the green energy camp or it's the carbon camp. And what I'm saying is we're better when we're centrist, right down the middle, and having common sense, common ground solutions to this. We need to have a plan before we start talking tough. That's all I'm saying. Like,
Yep.
I'm as patriotic as you can get, but we need to have a plan.
Agreed.
Wait,
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this. So I'll have Desiree next here. One of the things that we have to understand when we're dealing with somebody like a Trump, while yes, there's not a lot of gentle ways to approach somebody like that. Now, as far as the plan is concerned, I 100% agree with you. But the trouble with formulating any type of Canada First plan is we have to get the Conservatives aboard, and right now the Conservatives are not aboard because they're trying to dismantle the damn thing from within. So, Desiree, let's have you chime in here.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get everybody on board when we're coming into a liberal race. First of all, I think we're going to find out more if Carney does get in, keeping fingers crossed. that we're going to see him hit the ground running. Really. I think he can't divulge everything because he's not the leader of the Liberal Party. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's got stuff brewing and on paper that everybody's gonna be able to exhale a little bit and have confidence that whatever plan he's got is gonna hit that bully in the eye and pull other countries towards us. But
Have
we,
you heard him speak?
yes,
Yeah.
yes, I have.
And what has he said that's dramatically different than Trudeau? And again, and I'm not trying to be divisive here, and I'm not like, because again, I'm not a PP fan at all. What I'm saying is, okay, I know the messenger matters, but when you take away the fancy socks and the lisp and the hair and all the ladies think that he's good looking, right? What is Carney saying that's different than what Trudeau said? Because for me, part of the issue that I have is that we a year ago, I'd say a year and a half ago, but even say a year ago, we knew that that Trudeau's days were numbered, and all the sycophants went and they clawed the desperation and his ego. He held on to that and got us here. We are not in a good spot at all. Like, nobody can say that we are in a good negotiating position right now. It's a terrible negotiating position. And what
Well,
I've heard from Carney is no different than what Trudeau has been saying.
Well,
It's just a different messenger.
wait a
I'm
minute. The
gonna.
biggest mistake that
Yeah.
happened was Doug Ford taking all the premiers down. That was the biggest mistake that happened. That was not on Trudeau or Carney. He did that on his own,
Yeah.
and somebody needs to bee slap him back, and knock some sense into him
Now
because
I
that
wanna.
sent a bigger, badder message.
Yeah, I want to
Boom,
push
boom.
back a little bit on this because the messaging is the same, but essentially the messaging is always been liberal messaging. So I'm not sure that I agree with you, particularly that the messaging is exactly the same. So, Smarshy, I'll let you go quick, and then Angela, I'll get back to you.
All I'm saying is, okay, when you're when you're thinking strategically and you're thinking about your country and you look at what you're doing for your country, you don't show your opponent their hands. You never show your opponent your hand. Never show them your strategy. You never show them the game plan. That's called strategic planning. That's called being smart. Now, as far as Mark Carney and the Sox and the list, we shouldn't be demeaning his character because of what other people think. I mean, yeah, sure, he's an economist, he's an economic genius. He is going to get Canada back to where we need to be economically and financially so we can thrive as a country. That is what his job is to do. And yes, Trudeau has made mistakes. Everyone in the government has made mistakes. But I guarantee you that Trudeau nor Carney would ever sell us to another country for 31 years, unlike Harper and Paul Yev. I rest my case.
Okay, so what I'm going to say is, again, and I have to stress this, I'm a Nova Scotianer. I am not a Pierre Poilievre fan, but I am a logical thinker. And all I'm going to say is that, okay, everybody's saying, well, PP is going to sell us out to the United States. That's already done. 77% of our exports go to the United States. So that argument is gone. Okay. So, and when you talk about Carney, he hasn't said anything different than what Trudeau said. And again, I'm not a big Trudeau fan, and so it might sound like I'm sticking up for him a little bit here, but the only thing that's changed is the messenger. And you could say, okay, well, you know what? Carney is an economic genius and blah blah blah. Oh, gee, I remember another genius on paper that spent most of his life living outside of Canada. Oh, Michael Ignatieff. How did that work out for the Liberals? Not great. So my point is, we got to calm down in this coronation of Mark Carney and these bump in the polls and whatnot. There is a lot of receipts and there's a lot of sound bites that are going to come back to bite him. And I know in my area, he was interviewed on CTV in Halifax, right? Oh, how much steel have you bought lately? It was the most clueless take I've ever heard in my life. So yeah, people are smart on paper. Does not make them good managers. Not necessarily going to make him a good prime minister. And everybody has to understand that. I don't like PP. Okay, I'm going to roll the dice on him. What my wish would have been was for a moderate, centrist, liberal candidate, but they didn't want to go there. Everybody just, it's a coronation of Mark Carney. And it is going to be disastrous because all these sound bites and
No, I
all
disagree with you on
No.
that one, sir.
okay,
Okay.
well,
So,
and I respect your opinion, but you have to tell me something that's gonna change my mind here.
but Blade, I mean, at the end of the day, Carney was the guy that told everybody in the UK, do not do Brexit. He was the one that actually, for whatever reason, has always ended up on the positive side of most of the balanced books across his entire lifespan. I mean, the guy's credentials. Uh, so you're asking me to go, because he sounds a little bit like Trudeau, to completely ignore his entire experience base, all of the knowledge that this man brings to the table, in favor of PP, a career politician who in 20 years has not done a single positive thing for the Canadian people, for a party that represents selling and chipping away at government infrastructure. So
Absolutely radical.
no
I
matter how many things that you bring up against Carney, when I look at the alternative, to me, it's not even close.
Well, I got a response to that
Radical, can
if you
I
want to
chime
hear
in
it.
for a minute, please?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go
sure.
ahead, Mrs.
Yeah,
Radical.
thanks. So what I'm hearing from this fella is that he can't see the difference and doesn't want to see the difference. Carney was good enough for the conservatives. You can't see the difference between the two jobs that Carney's been doing versus the PM of Canada, then I'm wondering why you're playing this game or why what you're watching.
Okay. Well,
Because
I can
they're
answer. I
two
can answer
very
that.
different jobs. They're
I can
two
answer that.
entirely different jobs.
I can answer that because economic policy and banking policy is different than leading the country. And what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, okay, no, but just hold on, and it goes back to what the gentleman said about Brexit. Well, yeah, a monkey could have told you that Brexit was a bad idea. Okay, but in the long term, okay, my point is that I'm all for green energy, green technology, and a green economy when it's ready. Okay, but the most idiotic thing that Europe did and that we are doing is spiting ourselves and saying, okay, right, we are green energy is not ready yet, but we are going to go and cut our balls off.
Hang on. Wait a minute. Blade, I'm going to cut you off for a second here. What do you mean green energy is not ready? Because green energy just this last year surpassed oil and gas as far as cost per unit delivered basis.
with
So,
subsidies. With
no.
subsidies, it's passed.
Okay,
Green
so I'm
energy
going to
does
say
not
something.
exist
So
without
just the
subsidies.
other day, okay, CAA came out, right, with the cold weather that we're having and saying that the cold weather reduces the lifespan of a battery by 40%, right? The technology is not ready. there are Europe and a lot of the car manufacturers are pivoting from battery like EVs. Like it's happening. The tech is not there. You cannot
It'll be there
sustain.
soon.
I no
It'll be
hold
there
on, hold
soon,
on.
but it's
You
not now.
cannot sustain at like anything right now on solar and wind. Okay, what
You
I'm
sound like a
my
conservative.
Okay.
You
proposal,
don't sound like
Okay,
you're
guys.
you've hit the
uh,
hair, you've hit the socks, you've hit the solar. Yeah, you're all over the board here, man.
I've muted you for a second, gentlemen, because you're starting to dominate the conversation. And the conversation originally was around tech bros, around social media. So I'm not going to allow this conversation to go in this direction anymore. To my mind, the oil and gas versus if we had subsidized green energy, anything to the tune of what like we did oil and gas. This wouldn't even be a talking point at this point, but we've seen an active suppression of green technologies by oil and gas now for decades. We know that their data in the 70s backed up all other science and climate data showing that they had a full on impact on the environment. Cold weather climates are using green technologies. China has spent more on green technologies than North America and Europe combined. So, for some reason, China seems to see some advantage in green technologies, but that's where we're going to end that conversation. What I do want to get it back to is the original subject of the night, the dissemination of our information by tech bros. And what does that look like in Canada? Because for right now, we know that PP and the Conservatives have been using social media bots to flood the internet with their message. And so let's stay on topic here for the rest of the time here, guys. Just Scott and Blade, we'll get back to that topic on another one, but I want to keep it on the prize tonight. Just a little bit of notes here for welcome to Beaver Politics. If you're just joining the show, I am your host, Mr. Radical. Beaver Politics is all about knowledge through discourse. The subject tonight is the tech bros, the manipulation and basic absorption of our data by people that we did not elect and have no business collecting our data. So, Desiree, we'll get back to you.
Yeah, I just want to. It's just a little sideline. I just want people to be aware that if you're trying to make an argument in your favor, being dismissive of other people's viewpoints does not get you points. Okay? Just because you live in one part of the country does not make you smarter or more aware than somebody who lives in another part of the country. And I'm going to hand it over to Angela.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that, Desiree. That kind of brings my point. Because sometimes we get distracted on these debates and then we get off topic. But the topic is about how social media is affecting us. Social media is affecting us big time. I know for myself, I've reduced the time that I spend on social media, and I fact check myself on social media because there is a lot of misleading information. It's affecting us mentally because there's a lot of negativity out there as well. And you have to be very careful with the misinformation that is out there. And you need to really step back, think about what's out there, and research the information that you're finding when you're listening to these comments coming from let's say, for instance, Twitter and other things, because we don't have the same type of social media as we did before. In fact, social media impacts us on a day-to-day basis. Because,
Absolutely.
yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Mulligan, do you have something to say?
Yes, I'm not sure if I'm going to be on the right topic or not, but um, I got a little wound up there listening to that guy, so I'm trying to calm down a little bit because I don't think it's a time. I don't think it's. I'm not going to get off on that tangent or anything. I think it's a time for us to focus on being Canadians first, not like the slogan. Sorry, to be united instead of pulling apart little bits of things. And
Mhm.
I uh, I have a brother I'm very close to who has watches a lot of Fox News, and we're trying to have a conversation about politics and what's going on, and it's very I'm finding it so hard because I don't have too many people. That's why I like to be not necessarily talking to people on here. I like to I'm trying to listen and learn because it's isolating. I'm finding it very isolating um, with the divide. You know, I see Polyev. I can't stand looking at his face. I can't stand listening to him. The slogans, like it's almost um, it's mind numbing. Like I'm so sick. I'll be so excited to have an election, quite frankly, because I'm so sick of the hate and the division. Like we need to come down to we have to get to come together and and that's it. Like we have to unite right now. It's Canada against the world. Like, you know, and I don't know. Sorry, I off on a bit of a tangent there, but that's kind of what I had to say.
Yeah, but we have to, and like I keep pointing out, the tool of this aggravation, this unrest, this constant bombardment of our emotional systems is social media, and they gain the knowledge through your phone use on how to hit you in a particular fashion and to have it constantly resonating in your head. So much of these feelings that we are all responding to are literally like trauma responses because we're dealing with these micro traumas that come through to us through social media. And that's why I'm talking about why this infiltration of people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg is so dangerous, because the amount of information that they're privy to is astounding. And once you start hammering on somebody for long enough with a particular message, it is going to be hard for them to put it aside. Miss Radical? Oh, just Scott, do you want to chime in here?
Yeah. My advice is something I've been doing for a long time. I actually follow many people I completely disagree with. Like, but besides the people I like, I'm very careful of who I like and follow, but I make sure I follow people I'm completely disagreeing with because it keeps the algorithm a little more neutral. And like, listen, sometimes I get some information and I double check it that, okay, I might have been wrong. But we always have to be careful of not being in a bubble. If you only have people that you're paying attention to agreeing with you, you're in trouble. It does
Great.
it doesn't matter. Like you've got to listen to the counter narrative. So like if you're a huge Trudeau fan, you got to have some PP fans and vice versa. Like legitimately, you have to listen to the ultimate side because there's something there that's going to remind you that you're you might be thinking wrong. And thinking wrong's okay, but you have to be in check. So like everybody gets all wound up about social media and everything else, pay attention to what you're liking because the algorithm's following you. Like some stuff you don't like. Hit the hearts on stuff you don't like, just to keep you a little more neutral. That's all I got to say. So like, if all you listen
Amen.
to is Fox
Amen, brother.
News, you're screwed. If all
Yeah.
you listen to is CNN, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a conservative, but I tell you right now, my algorithm is very neutral. I like and follow a lot of people I completely disagree with because you know what? Sometimes they might be right, and you have to allow that to be there. You can't just listen to your narrative all the time. I'm
Now,
out.
just Scott, I just want to throw this one. You said that you're a conservative, and one of the reasons that I often bring random people on is for exactly the reasons that you mentioned, because it is good to hear the other perspective, it is good to hear the other side, and it is good to hear from actual people, someone who isn't a paid bot that is on this platform. Now, when it comes to the social media manipulation, like I've been talking about, on the conservative side, Scott, do you see a lot of people that are willing, like you, to explore different things, or like we often, and one of the things that I worry about on this show is becoming simply an echo chamber?
I see an echo chamber on both sides, and it's scary. Like it bothers me. Like conservative and liberal on both sides. Like I said, my algorithm is pretty neutral because I force myself to follow people I do not agree with. So I'm trying to get the middle.
Right.
And I'm telling you right now, I have never seen so much diversity and hate, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like this isn't Canadian.
Yep.
Like and I listen, I'm 50, so I grew up before the tech, and then I kind of amalgamated myself with the tech. And everyone's needs to, if you get that wound up, you need to take a couple days off. Go do something off of tech. And then specifically start watching stuff you disagree with to change the algorithms. The algorithms are what's creating this hate. And it's crazy because like I remember growing up that my neighbor might have been a liberal, the other neighbor might have been a conservative, but they still had a barbecue. They don't do that now. Like politics has become so diversive and it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
Like
Well, there's a lot of reasons for that right now, isn't that's an entirely different conversations. But Blade, I'll have you throw in, and again, let's keep it on subject, guys, about how what is the social media platform saying to both sides right now, because that's the entire point of the show today, is we have unscrupulous people that are directing us through social media, knowing our deepest secrets.
Yeah, so that gentleman was right on point. And I'm going to give you an example. So I said right off the top, I said I was Nova Scotian, just so I could make the distinction that I wasn't Albertan, because that comes with a negative connotation. And I also said that I was a centrist, which I am, right? And I'm going to tell you is that on social media, here's the difference right now. Everybody is saying that the right is intolerant. But right now, I mean, like, even in this conversation, I gave my point of view. I had people come out with pitchforks, and that's the difference. Like, on the right, if you agree with 10% of what they're saying, oh, I'll listen to you. You're in our camp. But if you disagree with one thing that the left says, then they, like I said, you're ostracized. They come up with pitchforks. And what I'm saying is there's an overcorrection going on both sides, the left and the right. The left went too far left. And so now what we have is PP and Donald Trump. And my argument is we
But
got
are
to get
they?
back. You got
Quick
to get back.
question.
We got to have to get back in the center.
Yep.
And but if you're going to get back in the center, it means that you have to see everybody's point of view. Quebec and Alberta, right? They're the two extremes, and you need to see both. And if we're going to get through this, we're going to have to see both point of views. You can't be in the bag on either side.
And see, I think people forget that Canada is center. It always has been. But
Yeah.
for some reason, the last couple of years, it's been this extremist. It's like, no, 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 no. Canada doesn't do extreme. And all of a sudden now, like, everybody who's monitoring social media and that's on it, like you're being fine tuned to an extreme or another. You got to stop doing that.
Yep.
Like, legitimately, you have to listen to the other side, because the center is where Canada's always been.
Yeah.
Like yes, we have some social programs versus America, but like, we're always been center. But right now, social media is swinging us one side or the other, and everyone's got to understand you're responsible for what you're watching. That's your responsibility.
Okay, I'm going to chime in and moderate just here a little bit. Thanks very much, both of you guys. Johnny, I'm going to welcome you to the show. I don't know if you've been a guest with us before. It's Beaver Politics. My name is Mr. Radical. Welcome aboard. Our platform is Knowledge Through Discourse. Please keep it respectful. What do you have to say about the subject? And then, Desiree, we're going to go back to you, and then we'll come back down the platform again on this subject. Try and keep it on subject, though, tonight, guys. Social media, its influence, and the tech bros.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, we are very separated. I have never seen this before in my life. I'm a dual citizen. I have a trucking business in America. I live in Ontario, Niagara area, and I never really followed politics, but the last couple of years I've been following it big time, because I call Canada my home. Even though my mom is an American, I carry both citizenships. I don't know why everybody is down on Trump. If you recall, didn't he tell Trudeau his last term, clean up the border, clean up your act?
Well, now, Johnny, to be fair, that most of the policies that were running between the two countries were negotiated during Trump's last term. So most of the things that he's putting tariffs on are things that he was the negotiator on last time.
I totally agree. Yes, and he was very happy with the terms. I personally believe that these tariffs, he's just pushing the election, is what he's doing. But Canada keeps on holding us hostage, and that's what we need to do, and that's why we're so divided. And the division started from the convoy and then COVID. And since then, it's been totally divided.
Well, I would agree to some point, but one of the things that I always question in any situation is the why. The why to me is always the most important question. The who, the what, the when, and the where. You can't answer those without the why. At the end of the day, why is all of this division happening? And I've spoken about it now on this platform. The ultimate goal right now is the enslavement of the population financially. It is minority rule. That is what we are after. We are heading toward an authoritarian dictator in Trump, Johnny. So I'm not really sure, what else we could possibly discuss with someone who wants to bury a neighbor that we have literally been partners with America for roughly 4 generations now. So I'm not sure where this flexibility for Trump comes from. But ultimately, I want to stay on topic here, guys. The topic right now, again, is social media, it's manipulation of the facts. And as we see here with differing opinions, everybody gets or seems to be getting a different set of facts. And that type of manipulation by social media is exactly what I have been trying to talk about with so many people, because it is insidious. People don't realize that they're being manipulated, and we are now, just now, kind of starting to see what those results actually look like. So we'll go back to the top of our panel here. Desiree, what do you have to say?
Yeah, Scott jumped down and yeah, he came in, he was respectful, he was not dismissing other people, and that made him easy to entertain his ideas, you know? And social media has become such a megaphone that people forget how to talk with other people without being dismissive or talking down, you know? And it's such a megaphone now, you know, people trying to get their point across without listening, you know, and media, social media has changed the landscape in how people just communicate day to day.
Now, I want to point something out, and we got to realize that everything that we see now socially is simply a microcosm of small communities. And what I mean by that is, if you took any a community of 100 people, you always had the couple of troublemakers in the crowd. No matter how things were set up, they were there to cause trouble. It is the way human beings are built and designed. Not all of us come out in cookie cutter form, and because of those situations, we are always going to have differences in the crowd. But now with social media, in a group of 100, those couple of people are easy enough that they don't particularly influence the group because the entire group knows what it's about. But when you expand that 100 people into a million and 100 million and a billion, now that group of 2 or 3 people is suddenly a sizable chunk of population. And with social media, they are allowed to communicate. And these people in particular are the ones that the Zuckerbergs and the Musks are directly targeting with social media.
Yeah,
Angela, go ahead.
yeah, and I
Oh,
really
sorry.
also,
Yeah.
I
Desiree,
live.
finish your thought.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to finish this real quick here. I live in Alberta, you know, and because of social media and some Albertans,
Hang on just
they,
1 second. Hey, everybody, can you please shut your mics off so we can make sure that we're hearing everybody that's up here? And thanks very much. Thank you.
yeah,
Sorry. Go ahead, Desiree.
yeah. So, because of, you know, the convoy and Daniel Smith and all these other things and historical things with Alberta, you know, people they without talking to an Albertan, an on the ground Albertan that's not a loud one, people jump right away. They jump to conclusions, you know, and social media has made that worse in many respects, you know, and it's interesting to watch how much how willing people are to spew hate across the country, you know. And I grew up in a time where people hated Quebec, you know, and everything that went around that. And you know, I had a couple of things that I said that would shut them down because historically they had valid reasons for wanting what they wanted, you know.
Yep.
But that's a whole other subject. But
Yep.
it's interesting how it's gone from radio to newsprint to TV to social media. And each successive movement has gotten worse.
Yep. Angela, go ahead.
Hi, Desiree, you explained it very well. It affects our ability, and it trains our mind on the way we think, right? And it influences us. And unfortunately, with the way social media is right now, and that affects both sides, right? We're talking about the two forms of the major medias, and that is TikTok. Sorry, that is Twitter and even Facebook now. They've literally taken away a lot of information, facts now. They're giving people the ability to bully people on social media. And that's a key thing. We don't feel safe anymore. It's become more of an attack sometimes than an actual learning and an actual communicating and meeting people. That was the form of it originally, but it's not that anymore. And that's something we need to be extremely careful about. I'll leave it back for
Yep.
now.
And one of the things that I want to add to that is, am I echoing?
I think there's something wrong with my mic.
Okay. So one of the things that I want to mention here is one of the things that we understand about trauma response in the brain is once we're kind of the brain gets set up in trauma response and the amygdala is constantly engaging, the degree to which it engages not only is quicker, but it is fiercer when it does engage because the response becomes so constant. So things that, and you might notice after a couple hours of scrolling, things will just trigger you. And it's at that point that you have to understand the mental manipulation that's going on. The algorithm is designed to inflame that amygdala because it drives your engagement to stay on. What we're starting to understand now is that response in us as human beings, and to be able to manipulate and control it and not allow the use of social media to become an influencing factor and allow it essentially to manipulate our brains. Johnny boy, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I was just going to bring up something that when you mentioned about Trump being a dictator, you don't feel that our government is doing the same with us at this moment?
I'm not sure the distinction that you're making. An authoritarian right now, under every government you have had some say in how that government is formed, what it does, how it allocates money, what money it takes in. Under an authoritarian, those will no longer be options. And if you've bothered to read Project 2025, you're heading toward a situation where you will have zero say, control, or ability to manipulate or change your government. That is what an authoritarian is.
Well, that I'm not for in any way, shape, or form, right? I like the old Canada way, and by no means am I for that. That's why a lot of people don't like what's going on. And this has been going on for a while.
Well, I would absolutely agree with that. Thanks very much for chiming in, Johnny. Women Against, welcome aboard, and how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Can you hear me okay?
You betcha. You sound good.
Okay, I just wanted to share with the group that I went a couple of nights ago. Adam Kinzinger from the United States, the Republican who was on the January 6th Commission and who was one of 10 Republicans to vote to impeach Trump after the January 6th situation. He was in
Yep.
Vancouver, so I went to see him with a relative and with one of our TikTok friends, who I won't say who it is at this point because she hasn't given me permission. And my sister and I were quite disgusted by him because he seemed to really minimize Canada's response to these tariffs. He spoke about Trump as being a 4-year problem. He'll go in 4 years without any recognition of the fact that he's destroying their democracy and their economy at a rapid rate. And he had
Yep.
that kind of what I've always thought was that fake American idealism about what America actually is. So I'll be honest, we got pissed off and we left. So, but my TikTok friend stayed, and she said to me in the theme of what you're talking about here, Radical, the misinformation, that one of the things that he said during the question and answer period was that if he said two things. One is that Polyev, he didn't know a lot about him, but he knows that he's the Canadian conservative, an
Yep.
extreme conservative, and that he really cautioned Canadians to, if you have a right-wing politician who's a nationalist, stay as far away from that person as you can, because you'll never recover from that. And the second thing he said is that if we do elect a Liberal government, especially a majority in this country, or even a minority, he said, you're going to see a misinformation campaign coming out of Russia and the United States, the likes of which we have not seen. He said, that is how they're going to try and bury this country. And he said, it's bad now, as we all know, and what you're talking about here. But he said, if that were to happen, watch out. So I thought that was actually interesting because, again, I feel that Canada and the United States always kind of operated on an honor system as far as its media and its social media, and we
Yep.
took for granted our institutions that they would protect us. And they failed during Trump 1. They didn't learn anything from it from Trump 1, and now they're in Trump 2, which is going to destroy them.
Yep.
And we in Canada are, I think we think we're also kind of immune to it. And the recent report of the Foreign Interference Commission talked about that they needed to set up some systems to look at misinformation and how do they deal with it, because right now we have no guardrails, nothing against it, and it's resulting in all these things that we talked about. So I just wanted to share that. I thought that was an interesting comment from our friend to the south, and I think the naivety of the government needs to stop, because we don't have a media that can deal with it. Our media is basically U.S. owned and controlled. And I don't know what the fuck is happening with the CBC and what they're doing, because they are terrible. They might as well be owned by the Americans. Excuse my language, by the way. I say that every time I'm here. But I feel like this naivety that we've had, we need to rise to this challenge, and we need to do it really, really quickly. And I went to see Mark Carney when he was here in North Van on the weekend, or a couple of nights ago, and I'm trying to get an interview with him, which I think is going nowhere, but it would be one of the questions that I would say to him is, what would you do to set up structures and systems in this country to protect us from this misinformation? Because it is an op, it's an international op, it's extremely successful, and we will end up in the same place as the United States if there's not, in my humble opinion, a Liberal government, but also if we don't have some really strict guardrails against this, because we are being played for idiots. So anyhow, that's what I wanted to say, and I appreciate the chance to speak, Radical. Thank you, and thanks for what you're doing.
Thanks for showing up. Thanks for having us, eh?
I'll go on. I'll get off,
Yep.
and then somebody else can come on. I'll just
You
get
bet.
up, open the spot.
Thanks. I'm just gonna. I want to throw this out there, and then Blade, I'll have you chime in next here. But one of the things that I talk about consistently is that the business community understands that essentially the only thing that is preventing them from basically dictating how the public does everything is the government. So part of the social media campaign is designed absolutely to poison people's ideology toward the government, because we're at the point where this has become so effective that people think that a government where we elect people in. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that government does not have its issues. It absolutely does on both sides. But we've gotten to the point where a good chunk of our population has been so brainwashed about the idea of government that they are more afraid of elected officials than the sociopaths who run big business, whose only mandate is to make money and whose entire track record shows a complete disdain and disregard for the very people that they service and employ. So, Blade, what do you have to say?
First off, I want to say I'm a virgin on this platform and doing this. So, Radical, I want to give you full props for moderating this. Like, I didn't really understand like the the sequences goes in and like how this works. So, want to thank you for that. Woman Against. I didn't agree with everything she said, but very intelligent person. Really wanted the really glad to hear her perspective, and I got to give her full props for that. And that's democracy. It's hearing different perspectives. Johnny, I'm going to stick up for him a little bit because the same argument that the Americans have, like saying that Justin Trudeau, the right wing Americans saying Justin Trudeau was a dictator. Well, you know what? We're saying the same thing about Trump. Both were duly elected. I've got my own opinions on that. But as far as social media and bullying is in the eye of the beholder, and that's what I'm finding. And you get a lot of perspectives from the left on Alberta. Alberta is the whipping boy right now in Canada, and I just want to point out that sometimes, as a Nova Scotian, and I just pointed out because I'm a centrist and I'm not in the bag either way, but the same criticisms that are thrusted on Alberta sometimes, yeah, you could say the same thing about Quebec, and they get a pass for political expediency, right? So I'm just going to put that out there, and I'm going to leave it at that, is that bullying online sometimes is in the eye of the beholder. We just have to be respectful of each other's opinions and remember that it comes from a different place, different perspectives. And if we are going to get through this as a country, we have to find the center. We have to moderate. We have to remember is that we're not always going to get everything that we want, and we're going to have to see other people's point of view.
Very well said, and I'm just going to add this. One of the things that we're seeing when we discourse with other people, I often talk in my personal life. I can't get into what I do for a living, but I often talk to people in my personal life about expectations and what we expect out of the world. And the one of the troubles with expectations is our expectations are completely colored by our past. So much of our past is reflected in our expectations. And it's one of the main reasons that we have struggled to get over a lot of the humps that we have in the world. And, talking about Quebec, because, yeah, absolutely. I remember when the general opinion of Quebec in Canada was absolutely atrocious. And I think in large part it was fairly well deserved. Now, obviously, we've seen an entire shifting of that perspective, but I think, like in any enclosed situation, you're always going to have your whipping boys and your golden childs. It's simply part and parcel of human nature. But the question is how many facts are we bringing to the table when we start to sling that mud? If it's just mud, it serves no constructive purpose. If it has facts behind it, then it should be an open discussion with those facts. So let me. It's almost 7:30 here, so I think we're going to end it off there. It's been a great discussion, but I want to introduce something on my show, and it goes back to an earlier part of the conversation with how much of a negative influence social media can be on everybody, on ourselves, on our personal lives, how we reflect around the world. So, on the closing of all of my shows, what I want to do is put something out there that's actually positive, that when people leave the show, they're full of knowledge, but they're leaving on just a little bit of a high note. Doesn't matter what that darn high note is, I don't care, but let's just end it off on something positive that everybody walks away feeling good about tonight. I'm just going to say this as kind of a final closing argument about the situation here. First and foremost, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. I want to thank all of my guests on the show tonight. I want to thank everybody that was in the box. Uh, Radicalized is what the show is called. I'm here 6 o'clock Saturday Mountain Time, 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. It is knowledge through discourse, and I hope everybody saw the format tonight. That's how I want to run the show here, that everybody gets a chance to say something. We want to bring in different perspectives because, again, perspectives and expectations are two things that are so much aligned in the human species. Now, final say on tonight's topic is one of the things that we're going to have to start being very careful of is the amount of information that we're actually inputting into our phones. I personally am right now pretty much in the process of closing down my Facebook account. Unfortunately, Messenger will probably be part of that process, even though I have a few people that I only communicate on that platform with. But at the end of the day, the amount of information that we continuously and perpetually send into the social media machine is the exact weaponry that they are using to not only influence us, but manipulate our decision making and as well as the way that we see the world. Left and right has always been there, but as I've always said, with the teeter-totter effect of human personalities, rarely are human beings achieving equilibrium. Equilibrium is a difficult state for us. We are usually going like this or we're going like this, one way or the other. That's the typical response from the human species. And all of these tendencies are being inflamed and aggravated by the social media machine that has the direct access to all your deepest thoughts, your darkest secrets, and those secrets are being used and channeled against you for a particular end. And that end, as always, is money. And the thing with money is it's always just power. Desiree, what do you have to say?
So I'm going to stick with something positive because, you have nothing nice to say. um, it's only 33 days until spring.
Woo!
And thanks for hosting tonight.
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate your. Uh, and I just want to throw this out to all of the panel and everybody watching just how much everybody here at Beaver Politics, including myself, Mr. Radical, appreciate you guys, appreciate your viewership. The one thing that we don't have much of as human beings is time, and any time that you give us is always appreciated. Angela?
Well, first of all, I agree with Desiree, and it was a pleasure. Even though I didn't physically meet you, I love the conversation that you had, Desiree, and everyone on the panel. And I love doing these lives because we're debating, but we're respectful at the same time. And thank you as well.
Thanks, Angela. Mulligan, a final thought?
I'm gonna just reiterate what she just said. It was just I appreciate just having a voice, and I appreciate that you guys do this work and take the time to do it. And thank you very much.
And Pam, you kind of showed up a little bit late to the show, but hopefully you got something for us to say here. We've got a few more minutes, so go ahead and have something to say.
Thanks for letting me come up. I don't want to take up too much time. I'll probably post my own TikTok after this. All I wanted to say was on the topic that, first and foremost, I'm a centrist, but I'm also a humanist. Like, I'm also somebody who believes in human rights. I'm almost 60, so I've been around, a few circles of the sun. And, 15, 20 years ago, politics wasn't identity politics. And through this growth of social media, it sort of hit at a time when I think we can all agree that, increasing taxes, decreasing disposable income with inflation, it was a perfect storm of vulnerability for folks. We wanted somebody to be angry with. We wanted somebody to or a group of people to make us feel powerful when we felt so powerless to make any changes and improve our own lives. And social media has stepped in and filled that void for a good number of people. I am actually recently being forced further and further left because I am assaulted daily by, and I'm going to assume they're all bots, but the comments and the things that are said to me are absolutely disgusting, and I wouldn't say them to my worst enemy. And
Yep.
when I report those comments, what I get back, no violation found. And that
Oh,
tells me a lot about the algorithm and what the intention of these platforms right now is. And that is to sow dissension, like to sow this left versus right bullshit. And I think people, all people who are on social media really need to take a step back sometimes, reevaluate what their core values are as human beings. And then if they re-enter it, they might want to examine who they're aligning themselves with and whether those people really truly are in line with their core beliefs. And what I mean by beliefs is value system.
I
Because if
agree.
you, for instance, believe in human rights, you can't support someone who refers to people as animals or dehumanizes any segment of our population. Because at the end of the day, we are all human beings and we all have human rights, and those human rights need to be respected, regardless of your political position. And that's all I'm going to say. But
Agreed.
I, but this was a very good live. The part I caught was awesome.
Thank you
And I
so much,
need,
Pam.
yeah, thank you.
Blade, final thoughts on the evening.
Well, I'm glad Pam got to speak because I really want to hear what she had to say. And amen, Pam. I agree mostly with what you're saying. And you know what? We just need to stick together. We're going to have differences of opinion. I'm a little bit naive, I guess, with all the bot stuff and the social media stuff. I just thought there was that many hateful people out there. So what did I know, right? But you know what? Hey, we just have to stick together. I think the centrism is the way to go. Take the best of both sides and go with it. And I want to thank you, Radical, for your moderation tonight. And it was great. It's a tough job.
Appreciate the kudos as always, but the Beaver Politics platform is kind of as I'm presenting it tonight. We firmly believe that communication is absolutely the key to solving not only a lot of our issues, but it doesn't always have to be doom and gloom. Sometimes knowledge is just that, knowledge. So I'm going to thank all of our guests and all of our hosts and everybody else that is here in the live. Thank you so much for coming to the show. I am Mr. Radical. I will be here next Saturday at 6 o'clock, but you can check out the rest of the Beaver Politics lineup all through the week, Monday to Saturday. And thanks all of our guests here, Angela, Desiree, Pam, thanks for chiming in. I'm glad I got a chance to hear what you had to say, Mulligan. And Blade, thanks very much. I really appreciate a respectful conversation. That's what we're all about. Thanks for bringing your viewpoint. Thanks everyone for joining in, and we will see you next week on Radicalized. Good night, everybody.